enforcer.
I believe you're called enforcers, Gordon. I sell women's shoes.
And the Stallion.
Stallion, baby! I am not what you would call a handsome man. I'll kick you in the nuts and you'll smile at me and like it. Oh, nice!
All right, attempt number 2. We're back with an all-new edition of the All Night Long Wrestling Podcast. We are your host. He is the Stallion. I am the Enforcer, and I believe that little yellow box means we're on air. Is that true?
Yes, it does. We are on air.
Okay, good. So am I, on the air?
You're on the air, yeah. I think it's like one of those things where, like that riddle about, if a tree falls in the forest but there's no one around to hear it, does it make a sound type of thing? I think that's what we're at right now with our podcasts, because we're on the air, but I don't know if anyone's actually hearing it. I think that's kind of the riddle. So,
wow,
with that
actually kind of made me want to go to bed. Like go to bed. Like I just watched Glenn die in The Walking Dead. Sad. Go to bed. Like that was demoralizing, man.
I'm sorry. You know what? It's just I'm hungry. I think the kids call it hangry. I think that's what people call it these days.
Yeah.
And
it was like 2 hours ago. I'm also hangry. Well, listen, let's get this show up. We'll do it quickly, and we'll get you some dinner, man. I think you need something, some protein, maybe some complex carbohydrates.
We got some chicken and applesauce in the fridge that's got my name on it that we're just that we're waiting to consume. So yes, as soon as we're done with our the Nightcap episode of the All Night Long Wrestling Podcast, then I will consume it.
Fuck yeah, love applesauce, man. Huge mark for the applesauce. That's great. You got your sugars, you got your carbs, and you got your protein in the chicken. That's actually a perfect post-workout. So next time you hit the gym, probably tomorrow night, you get yourself some applesauce and some chicken. Well,
I'm gonna do it.
Perfect. Listen, as you said, the Nightcap. Why we're here is we're talking about Wrestle Kingdom 12, which aired about 12 hours ago, Eastern Standard Time.
EST.
Live, EST, yeah. Live on NJPW World, or any other nefarious ways you got to watch it, Joe.
Yes, I cannot confirm or deny if I watched an illegally posted video of Wrestle Kingdom 12 mere hours after it completed. But either way, I was able to watch the majority of the show as we dealt with the bomb cyclone on the East Coast today.
Is that like Naito's finisher? What is that?
I think so. And whose finisher it was? Meat.
Who?
Meat.
You know something? That's still a sore subject. I don't know if we talked about that on air.
We don't have to. It's okay.
Yeah, you know, we're
I'll just post the picture to our Instagram and people can go there and look at it.
There you go. I'll tag, hold on. Is Meat still with us?
Sean Stasiak? I believe that he is, unless I don't think he's in the wrestling business anymore, but I believe that he is. I'm not sure how we veered from New Japan Wrestle Kingdom to Sean Stasiak's persona as Meat in the late 90s, but we did.
I'm just hoping he's not dead. That's what I meant when I said, is he still with us?
Yeah. I hope he's not dead as well. That would
okay. Well, now that we've both agreed that we hope Sean Stasiak hasn't passed away, let's get to the Nightcap of Wrestle Kingdom 12. While I argue with a bunch of marks on Twitter over the show, idiots. All right. It was a 37.5-hour show, which is down from last year's 46-hour show. So first and foremost, that's what I enjoyed. I'll break down the card real quick, and then we'll go into a little review. First section, I'm not going to break down the card. We're going to go. We'll talk about it as we go. First match on the pre-show was the New Japan Rumble. The New Japan Rumble is similar to the WWE Royal Rumble, except you can get eliminated by getting tossed over the ropes or getting pinned. I believe Michael Elgin won it last year. It's very similar to the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal in that nobody cares what happens if you win. So this year, I can't imagine the betting odds would have had Masahito Kakihara winning this one. Joe, what about you?
I did not have him winning. I did not. But was it better than the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal in terms of quality?
Yes, it was. It was, you know why? Because having pinfalls in there added more to it. You know, like it wasn't your weight, you're trying to do the over the top rope stuff, but you know, adding the pinfall element kind of made it go by a lot faster. So I did enjoy that. And actually Chase Owens had a really good showing. So that was pretty cool. Somewhere I read, correct me if I'm wrong. Actually, if this, I could be wrong, but apparently Kakihara was, I want to say, diagnosed with cancer, and he had beaten cancer.
Yes, I read that also.
Okay, because I read that in a recap, and I'm just looking it up right now, and I can't find it somewhere. So it was more like a kind of like a feel good moment for him. Which, if that's the case, then I am all for him winning, and good on him. I will say that. So,
yeah, good for him. I mean, it sounds like a good story. I mean, I didn't know too much about the guy, but if he overcame and beat cancer, and they gave him a win in this the first match on the card, then good for them.
Yeah, and usually every year they have a couple of surprise entrances. This year wasn't anything to write home about. I think Delirious, Cheeseburger. That's really it. That kind of stood out to me. It was good for what it was, and that's all it was. It was a kickoff show, and listen, it's a kickoff show. It's fine. The opening of the actual event was the Young Bucks against Roppongi 3K for the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Tag Team Championship. Now, you and I both predicted the Young Bucks victory in this match, correct?
I don't remember. I think I took the Young Bucks. I know I took the Young Bucks. I don't remember if you picked which one you picked. We have to go back and listen to our prediction show.
I'm pretty sure I took the Bucks in this because I was saying, I don't know, who knows? My heart was going with the Young Bucks, but either way, I wasn't very impressed with Roppongi 3K the first couple of times I saw them, and I think they slipped up the game a lot in this match. This was, I think Cyrus or Don Callis said it. He alluded to the Young Bucks working an arm or working a limb that people weren't sure they could do, and this kind of had like more of a standard tag team formula. And I thought Roppongi 3K had a good match. They had I don't know which one it was, Show or Yo. I think it was Yo. He was kind of the face in peril for a lot of it, but he had some good spots, and the Young Bucks got the win with the Boston Crab, right? No, I'm sorry, the Sharpshooter. It was the cease and desist.
Yeah, yeah. I think this was a good match. I liked it a lot. I thought it was one of the better. Well, it was a little bit different than the normal Young Bucks matches that I think we've been seeing for a while now, and I liked it because they kind of went through the story of Matt Jackson and one of the Roppongi 3K team members having back injuries, and so then working in those sharpshooters and single leg Boston Crabs, and kind of the way that the match went through. It had some good psychology to it, which not that the Young Bucks can't do that, because they can, but they don't always do it. It was a match that wasn't just a lot of high spots and dives and things like that. So I actually really liked it. It was, like I said, one of the better Young Bucks matches that I've seen in a while, and that they ended up winning the junior heavyweight tag titles. I think it's their 7th title reign.
Yes, and I believe Jim Cornette was the one that said the Young Bucks could wrestle a regular match, in case you're wondering. Yeah, it was their 7th title reign, and as Don Callis said, Michael Jordan only had 6, and Michael Jordan is a mark, which popped me huge. Thought that was tremendous. So good for the Bucks. What I did know, next matchup will go is the gauntlet match for the never openweight 6-man tag titles. I'm not going to go through everybody that's in the match, but I caught probably 2/3 of it, and I will say good old Trent Beretta. Since he became a heavyweight and left Roppongi Vice, hasn't been very impressive. Not that he hasn't been impressive, but he hasn't had any impressive wins, and I think he definitely stood out in this match. He won the match, he got the pin, and so now you have Ishii, Beretta, and as the never openweight 6-man tag team champions.
Yeah, it sounds like I didn't get to see that. This is one of the matches I didn't get. There's only I think 2 matches that I did not get to find on the internet. This was one of them, but I read the recap of it, and it sounded like like you described, that Beretta was kind of the focal point or star of the match in an intent to kind of get him more over and more attention in the heavyweight division. So he, I think, was kind of the focal point of this match, and his team ended up winning the 6-man titles.
Yep, no problem with that. Hopefully, as a local guy, Trent from Mount Sinai, I believe, saw him at the gym a couple times. Had a full-on conversation or two with the Natural, much to my chagrin. He's now joined the ranks of Kenny King and Trevor Lee. They're on my list, Joe. They're on the list. Next up, was supposed to be for the Ring of Honor World Title before Cody lost to Dalton Castle, but it was Cody. Don't call him Rhodes with Brandy Rhodes, who I think you're allowed to call Brandy Rhodes, which is interesting. Against Kota Ibushi, and you texted me something about this match right as it started. What was that text?
was it the Brandy is tremendous text that I sent? Okay.
Yep, fantastic. She's doing a great job. And I thought she actually cut I don't think she cut a promo, but she kind of was walking as she was walking to the ring. She kind of cut like a little mini promo. I thought it was actually really good. I haven't heard much of Brandy on the mic, but they had a spot where Ibushi dove to the outside and he took out Brandy and Cody, and then he felt sorry for Brandy, so he picked her up, and then Cody socked him with the right hand, and then she got right up, and I was like, man, that is just good classic heel stuff, you know? I was totally bought into that. But as far as the match goes, I thought it was actually, I'll ask you, true or false? It was the best Cody Rhodes match you've ever seen.
I think it was, he had that match with Okada in the G1 specials in Long Beach during the summer. It was on par with that, I would say, and those are the two best ones I've seen from him, as a singles wrestler. Either when he was in WWE or since he left. So from a singles match perspective, it was probably between this match with Ibushi and the match with Okada from the summer. Those are the two best efforts or matches that I've seen from Cody.
Yeah, he hit he kept a pace with Ibushi, which I think is tough, and he hit him with a nasty crossroads from the apron to the outside, and Ibushi sold it like he died. And I thought that was probably the spot of the match. I've already seen GIFs everywhere online, so good for Cody. He needed a big match. He didn't necessarily need the win, but I think he needed a big performance, and he really needed to get the crowd behind him. And I definitely think they were in this match. And I wonder how far in advance this was booked. I wonder if Cody was going over to Japan regardless, and Gedo had already booked Ibushi to beat Cody, and there was no leeway with it, so they had to put the title on Dalton Castle. Do you think that's possible?
I don't know. I think if that was the case and they wanted Ibushi to go over, that they could have just made it non-title, because when they did the Okada match with Cody was the ROH champion and Okada was the IWGP champion, and they just had Okada win and they didn't have any titles on the line. So they may have just made it they could have made it non-title, because I don't know if the Dalton Castle win was planned. From what I heard, it was, but you never know what's really true. But yeah, I don't know. It was still, I guess, bottom line was it was a good match, and I almost prefer the fact that he wasn't the champion, because if he was, I wouldn't have wanted to see him either lose a title here or get pinned as the ROH champion. It did value that belt at all. So, but yeah, it was really good. I mean, it was probably better than I thought it would be, just given the level of Cody's matches that we've seen the last year or so.
Yeah, and we've talked about that too. And I think Cody stepped his game up, and I was happy to see the match played out the way it did. And that makes me think also you're probably going to see Ibushi challenge either Omega challenge either for the IWGP United States title or for the IWGP Heavyweight title, relatively soon. But before that, next matchup was for the IWGP Heavyweight Tag Team titles. It was the champions Killer Elite Squad, Davey Boy Smith, and friend of the All Night Long Wrestling podcast, Lance Archer, taking on LIJ, Los Ingobernables de Japan, Evil, and Sonata. Now, I know you didn't get to see this match. This was one of my favorite matches on the card. I've seen a lot of the Killer Elite Squad, but this match, I won't spoil anything for you, but the match kicked off, and I think Evil turned around to Sonata to high five him to talk to him, and the Killer Elite Squad threw him out of the ring, and they hit the the killer bomb on him, and you almost had a quick 3 with 5 seconds to the match, and I totally bought into it. But the storyline of the match was Smith and Archer just beating the shit out of literally everybody. They literally kicked everybody's ass around the ring, from the Young Boys to the ref to Evil and Sonata. I would say if it was a 14-minute match for 12 and a half minutes, it was just Killer Bee Squad dominating, which is, if you're going to drop the title, you definitely had Evil and Sonata as the faces in this match. And if you're going to drop the title, you want the heels that are dropping it to look strong the entire match. And I think they did a great job of doing that.
Yeah, I mean, I know those guys had a lot of momentum going into their title shot here. So I think we both predicted the title change. So I don't think it's all too surprising. And, those teams are both very good. We've seen Killer Elite Squad in person, and they've made a good name for themselves over in Japan. So it sounded like the match was very good, and I don't really have any issue with the title change. I think, a lot of people probably saw it coming. But, good on them for, again, putting in a good effort on it. Probably in a tough spot on the card, just because they're like right in the middle, between the opening stuff and then the big stuff that comes, on the back end of the show. So, good for those guys for putting in a good performance.
Yeah, and I think it's as you're saying about tough spot on the card. I think that's 1, 2, 3. The last 5 matches. I mean, if you're in the crowd, you have to. I don't know how the crowd was able to stay in it when you have. The next matchup was Goto and Suzuki for the Never title. That match went 18. The IWGP Junior went 21. Tanahashi versus Jay White went 20. Omega Jericho went 35, and Okada went 37. So there's no break in there. There's not a mixed tag match. There's not like back in the day they used to put the Divas matches on. You have to be in there for the long haul, and for New Japan to be able to keep the crowd up the entire way through says a lot. Says a lot about the way they booked the show. But talk to me about Goto and Suzuki, because I did not get a chance. This is the only match that I missed in the entire card.
Well, this one, so it was for the, oh gosh, was it the Never open weight?
Yeah, this is
title.
The Never open weight title. Yep.
Yeah, it's trying to keep track of all the championships. So it was that, and it was also hair versus hair. So I think because of those two things, that the match had it seemed to have a lot of heat to it. The crowd was very into it, and there weren't a whole ton of big moves. Suzuki's a little bit long in the tooth, as they say.
He's like 70, Joe. He's not long in the tooth. He's like 100.
Yeah. So, but there were some cool spots. I thought it had a lot. I thought it had a lot of intensity, I guess you could say. Like there was a spot where early on he had him in like a choke, and he kind of had him in he stood on the middle rope. Suzuki, that is, and had Goto in a choke. It was almost like a hanging choke, and they had to break it up, and then Goto just dropped, and they had the doctor come in the ring and check on him. Like they really sold it pretty huge, and Suzuki controlled a lot of the match early. That he had some Suzuki-gun guys tried to run in and try to get through the crowd and over the rail, and they were being held off, and so there was just a lot of good heat like that, and it went to an intense finish where Goto ended up getting the win, so he won the championship back, and then they shaved Suzuki's head after it was over. So I just thought that it didn't have a lot of, like I said, a lot of crazy high spots or anything, any dives or anything like that, but there was a good intensity to it and a good heat. It was it was a little different than some of the other stuff on the card, so I kind of liked it for what it was. Again, it was a match I wasn't expecting a lot out of, and I enjoyed it more than I thought I would.
Good. That's good. I think we both predicted Goto to win this one too.
Yeah.
And as far as you're saying no dives and stuff like that, that's probably that's a perfect spot in the card, because next you had the 4-way for the IWGP Junior Heavyweight title, champion Marty Scurll versus Hiromu Takahashi, Kushida, and Will Ospreay. This match was it's everything you expected. It was 4 guys just kind of going buck wild for 21 minutes. It was a spot where Takahashi was in the middle of the ring, and he had 2 sunset bombs back to back, one on Will Ospreay and one on Marty Scurll. Everybody kind of played their part in this match. I think I predicted Marty Scurll to keep it, but Will Ospreay wound up. I don't remember the finish offhand. Do you?
He pinned Marty. They were doing some reversals in the ring, and then he ended up hitting the Oz Cutter, I believe, was his finisher. After he went for it a bunch of times, and I think even Scurll hit him with his own finisher. Hit the Oz Cutter on him at one point, and he kicked out. And I think it was a thing where.
Oh, didn't Kushida hit the package pilot, the cradle driver?
Yes, he did.
Small package driver, and then Ospreay. Yeah, okay, that's what it was.
He did at one point, and I think the end was Skrull came in with the umbrella, right, and then knocked out Takahashi and Kushida, and then he went to go after Ospreay, and then they kind of just had an exchange, and Ospreay hit the cutter and won. So I think that's how the finish went down. The announcers, at least I was listening to the American feed, and they put it over as Ospreay kind of. I guess he always has trouble beating Skrull in all the different promotions that they've been in. So they kind of put it over as, he came full circle from when he lost the title and he beat his rival and all that type of stuff. So, but yeah, it was a lot of high spots, a lot of good, a lot of crazy dives and sunset flip power bombs and things like that to the outside. It was, but it was really entertaining. It was really a good match that you'd expect from those four.
And if you would have asked me to rank the four guys I thought were going to win this match, Will Ospreay would have been at the bottom. So, yeah. I guess, but now the issue I have is you have 4 title matches so far, and the titles change hands in all four of them.
Yeah.
So going into the last stretch, but I guess at the end of the day, when you have every match on the show is for a title, it's going to have to happen. So next up was Hiroshi Tanahashi versus the debuting Sling Blade, who is Jay White back from excursion. You and I think we both had high hopes in this match, and I think we might have even both predicted Jay White to win. Mm-hmm. This match was a little bit deflating. It was kind of a paint by numbers Tanahashi match, which isn't necessarily bad, but I don't think anybody really believed Jay White would win the match. So it didn't have that kind of drama with some of the near falls. The only near fall I think I really bought into was when White hit the Kiwi Crusher on Tanahashi, and then he was going for. It looked like he was setting up for Sister Abigail. I don't know what that finisher is. I don't think I've ever seen him do it as what's his name? Not Sling Blade.
Yeah, Sling Blade.
It is Sling Blade. Are we sure?
Switchblade.
Switchblade. There we go. Sling Blade is Tanahashi's move. That's yeah. So I just never really bought into White winning the match, and I don't think the crowd did either. They were still super hot for Tanahashi the entire way through, but I don't think there was that drama that all the other matches had.
Yeah, and I read a recap of the show after I watched all the matches, and
was it TJ Hawks? Because this sucked.
No, it was not TJ Hawks. I think it was Larry Zonka's review, but he pointed out, which I think correctly, that the Switchblade character for Jay White didn't have a ton of build up really leading into this match, or he didn't have any previous feuds. So this is really like his first time, back, after, coming back with this new gimmick. And, kind of like you alluded to, the crowd really didn't know, I guess, what to think of him, or he hadn't really established himself yet. So there wasn't a whole lot of people buying into the notion that he might win. I think you and I had picked Jay White because we thought they would try to establish his new character and give him a big win to kind of push him, right away. But instead, they went for the route of probably trying to have him put in a really strong effort and try to dominate Tanahashi, but only to end up losing in the end. Maybe they thought that would kind of get him, start building him up more. But it didn't have a whole ton of drama to it, compared to other Tanahashi matches that we've seen in the past, and especially at the Wrestle Kingdom shows.
Yeah, and it wasn't a bad match per se. I would just say it was slightly disappointing because we had our hopes so high, and seeing Jay White, in Ring of Honor, we kind of know what he's capable of, but I don't know if the New Japan crowd does. And I think, whether you or Zonka, you kind of hit right on the head, the nail on the head. It would have been nice to see him in a couple of matches leading up to it, so the crowd can really sink their teeth into his character. Next up, it was the Alpha versus Omega. Kenny Omega, the IWGP US Heavyweight Champion, against the re-debuting Chris Jericho, who, not to knock Chris Jericho right off the bat, because the man's 47 years old, but he kind of looks like a guy that's been drinking beer and touring for the last 6 months. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, well, he doesn't seem to take much time off from the things that he does, right? He was with WWE for, his last run, I think, was, a year, a little over a year long. And then he does the tours with Fozzy. his band, either in between or even sometimes at the same time. And he finally kind of took a break from WWE. He was touring with his band all summer, and now he jumps into New Japan. He doesn't really seem to take much of a break from the things that his career, the different careers that he has. So
like binge drinking either. He doesn't seem to take a break from that.
No, no. Yeah, he's a busy guy, man. He does his podcast like twice a week, and he has a family with a couple of kids, and he does the wrestling, and he's in the band. So it's just he doesn't stop. I barely can find time to go to work and get to the gym a few days a week, and this guy's all over the world doing different things and performing. So
yeah, like our friend Lee, a friend of the All Night Long Wrestling podcast, who was actually at Wrestle Kingdom. So I could barely find time to sneeze during the day, and people are just out there going to Japan, Joe.
Yeah, I think as soon as Wrestle Kingdom comes to Hammerstein Ballroom in New York City, I'm sure we'll get tickets. But
Yeah, let me know when that show is coming, Joe. But as far as the match goes, did you ever in your wildest dreams expect this to go 35 minutes?
I didn't think it was going to go 35 minutes. I mean, I know that a lot of Omega's matches, or the big ones, usually go for 30 minutes or longer. I thought maybe this would be like a 20 to 25 minute match. I figured, because it had the no DQ stipulations, so I figured they would be doing some weaponry and whatever it was. But I didn't think it was going to go as long as it did. But they both seemed to be fine. I mean, I don't think anybody had any conditioning issues, and including a 46, 47-year-old Chris Jericho, who probably hasn't gone that long in a match in I don't know how long.
Yeah, I didn't. There was nothing to me. Like, even after the match, he didn't look blown up, quote unquote. He looked like a guy that just wrestled the match, but he wasn't huffing and puffing. As far as the actual match goes itself, I mean, it was what it had to be. Omega's probably 15 or so years younger than Jericho, far faster, and in a one-on-one match, Jericho's not going to be able to keep up with Omega pace-wise. However, as far as ring psychology and telling the story, you'd be hard-pressed to find anybody better ever than Chris Jericho. So they played to both guys' strengths perfectly. Omega did his job, kind of bumping for Jericho and selling for him without overselling, which he's been known to do in the past. And I think they towed the line in this match, but I don't think it was an issue. Omega took some brutal bumps. The head first into the chair in the corner like 4 times in a row seemed a little bit unnecessary. I don't know if that was just me.
I guess they were just probably trying to put over some level of brutality with it. I think he hit him a couple of times, and then he really threw him in forcefully, and that's what busted Omega open, right? He was cut after that. But I guess it's kind of like you said, they did things, they played it the right way, in the sense that, not that Jericho has limitations, but he has been around a while, and he can't keep up with a guy who's 33 years old at this stage and in his prime, right? So they did things to add that level of violence to it and kind of build the drama and suspense. And he played the heel role, right, Jericho, really in the whole feud in this match. So
to a T, like probably the best I've ever seen Jericho be a heel.
Yeah, so they did just building that up.
He slapped Red Shoes, and then he slapped his kid, and he put him in the Lion Tamer. I thought that was awesome.
Yeah, so they really did things like that to, I guess, just to kind of build that level of heat and drama and play into the finish, right? Because the finish was, so Omega had hit the one-winged angel at one point, but it was near the ropes, and Jericho was able to grab the bottom rope. And then the ending was he hit the one-winged angel on a chair. Right after Jericho had really punished him with the chair by throwing him into the the turnbuckle with a chair, and he had the frame of the chair that he kind of was using as a weapon on his neck and his midsection and stuff, and they ended up having the chair play into the finish where Omega ended up using it to his advantage and won the match after 35 or so minutes and retained that title. So, but yeah, it was really entertaining. It was really good. It was built up really well, and I thought they delivered on the hype that they had created for it.
Yeah, and I think the commentary did a good job during the match. Don Callis said something like, whoever faces Omega next is going to have to face a hardened version of him, like putting over what I guess Jericho brought out in him as like the grizzled veteran who challenged the Omega. And it was just from top to bottom issue. with the way they booked anything of that feud or that match. So, I mean, kudos to New Japan and to I know Don Callis was the one that came up. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. He came up with the idea, or Jericho came up with it and he put it all together.
The only thing that I read was that Jericho was kind of going through him to pitch the idea to Omega and Ghetto, I guess, initially, or maybe sent out like a feeler to be like, would they be interested in doing this? And I think that was the link. So I don't know if it was, I don't want to assume, but my thought is that it was Jericho's like idea to try this. And then he probably went through Don Callis to get to those guys and they were receptive to it. And then it ended up kind of going from there because Jericho wasn't under contract to WWE anymore. So you could kind of be free to do whatever he wants.
Well, whatever it was awesome. And I hope Don Callis stays with New Japan because I know now he's a head honcho over at Impact. So I wonder how that's going to impact his nice, how it's going to affect his New Japan stance. That being said, that's going to lead us to the main event. Kazuchika Okada versus Tetsuya Naito for the IWGP Heavyweight title. We were 0 for 2 on this match. Ghetto booking. The Ghetto special, Okada retains after 35, 40 minutes. It was a top to bottom. It was a fantastic match. Everything was in place for Naito to win, and they just couldn't do it, it's disappointing. Okada's in the title 530 some odd days now. I don't think he has anything more to prove. I think Tetsuya Naito would have benefited 10 times as much from a win than a loss would have hurt Okada. The spots were good. They told a great story. Naito kept working over Okada's neck, which was going to play into the finish of the Destino, but tried and true. Okada counters a Destino into, I think it was a high angle German, and then he held on and hit him with the two Rainmakers, and Okada gets a clean win at about 36 minutes.
Yeah, it was. I guess it was. I don't want to say surprise. It was a little surprising, I guess, right? That he retained. I think a lot of us, I know we did, thought this would be a spot where Naito would take it because he had come off the G1 victory and it was really building to this for a long time. And so Okada's great. It's a little disappointing. I thought they would go that direction. I just don't know who it'll be that beats Okada. I mean, I guess they could do a rematch with these guys, or correct me if I'm wrong. The last 3 Wrestle Kingdoms, right, that Okada's beaten Naito, Omega, and Tanahashi. Is that right? He's in the last 3 Wrestle Kingdoms.
Omega, Naito, Tanahashi. You said right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So I think those 4 guys, I would say, are their top stars as far as the heavyweight division is concerned. And now he's beaten, the other 3 on their biggest shows of the year in consecutive years. So I don't know what their next move is for that. I mean, you could go back to an Omega match. Omega's got a different title now, so I don't know if you really want to mix those guys again. And then you could do a rematch with Naito, but then why not pull the trigger here, I guess. So I don't know what their direction is from here. I'm sure Ghetto has an idea of what he wants to do. I just don't know where they're going or what the next step is. So I don't know, maybe that adds a little bit of intrigue or curiosity to see who his next challenger is going to be on the next major show when that comes up. But I do think that they should have pulled the trigger on Naito because it was the right time for him to take it back. But then the match itself was really good. What you would expect from these guys in a main event level position on the biggest show of the year for New Japan. So
yeah, and tomorrow, I think it's tomorrow, they have New Year's Dash, which is, you never really know. New Japan, the day after or a couple days after Wrestle Kingdom, they have a show called New Year's Dash, and you never really know what the card is. They said they don't book the card until the end of Wrestle Kingdom, and you kind of just find out as it happens. It's had like a lot of surprises and things like that. I think New Year's Dash 2 years ago, like Suzuki Gun returned. So I'm hoping tomorrow. I don't even know. It's very hard for me to read the New Japan website, by the way. So, Friday, January 5th at 18:30. So yeah, so then actually it's tomorrow morning. Yeah. So it'll be tomorrow morning. I'm hoping for something different. You know, I don't want to see just a rematch with Naito being set up. I would like there to be maybe like Ibushi comes out and maybe Kota calls out Okada, or we set up something, you know, and then we go into that later in the year. I don't know. I mean, the G1's what, 5 months away, 6 months away. So
I think it's
you're
like
gonna have
July, August or something, right? So or August.
yeah. So you have half the year to set up, give something Okada to do in the meantime, or have Okada lose the title and have him win the G1. I don't know. You have a lot to do, but like I wouldn't go with Omega and Okada right away, especially if they don't know Omega signed for. So New Year's Dash should be interesting. I guess we just don't know.
Yeah, well, we'll see. So I guess that's it though. I mean, overall, from everything that I saw, it was a good show, and there was some good matches, and glad that we had a snowstorm today, so we were both able to watch it in a timely fashion and not have to wait till the weekend for it. So that's good. Stay current, and that's about it, man.
And just so you know, I actually just read New Year's Dash will be free, even if you don't have NJPW World. It'll be free on their service. So you got to just go to the website. So thank you, New Japan, for pulling. Yeah, absolutely. All right, so now it's time 1 to 10. What do you rate the show?
Well, from what I saw, it was probably like an 8, I would say. I mean, it's 8 out of 10. I mean, there was some really good stuff on there. Like the only thing that was really kind of disappointing was the Tanahashi match. And just from a booking perspective, the fact that Naito didn't win, but other than that, everything was pretty quality.
I'm going to go a little bit higher on you. I'm going to go 8.75. Only because I feel like if I put the show on right now and I started from the first match, no match in there was an insult to my intelligence. No match that I hate, and I could watch it through. I mean, maybe fast forward some, in between stuff because it was a 17-hour show, but I could watch it straight through, and there were 3 or 4 matches really delivered. So I think they did it wasn't as good as last year's, but last year's was tough to top. So I think they did a good job with what they could, and I'm interested to see what happens in New Year's Dash.
Yeah, man, should be interesting.
Well, as always, you can find us on actually, you can find me right now on Twitter. I took a little break from Twitter for the last 40 minutes to do the show, but I'm going to get right back on there spitting some venom at these marks. Come get this work, huh? Come on, guys. Come get the 2-piece. You get bread and a biscuit. I'm on fire right now. I'm tweeting fire at All Night Long WP, Facebook.com/AllNightLongWP. And hopefully we have more news on those guests we were talking about in the previous episode in the coming weeks. So That's it for the Stallion. I'm the Enforcer. We're tapping out.
Your picture, I'd like $1 million of you over myself. I want a doctor to take a picture so I can look at you from inside as well. You got me turning up and turning down, I'm turning in, I'm turning right, I'm turning Japanese. I think I'm turning Japanese, I really think so. Turning Japanese, I think I'm turning Japanese, I really think so.